The alarm screamed through survey ship Cathara 7, and senior xenobiologist Vralkesh felt his 3 hearts skip in unison. In 40 cycles of observing primitive species across the galaxy, he had never triggered the emergency protocol. Until now. His manipulator appendages trembled as he reviewed the data again, hoping he had made an error. He had not. The species on the 3rd planet, the ones who called themselves humans, had just done something impossible. They had gone from inventing powered flight to landing on their moon in only 66 of their local years. 66 years. Most species took thousands of years to achieve such a feat. Vralkesh scrolled through the historical data he had collected over the decades. These humans were different from any species in the Galactic Council database. They were not the strongest. They were not the smartest. They did not have natural armor or weapons. Yet somehow they had become the dominant predators on their planet through one terrifying trait. They never gave up. The data files painted a disturbing picture. Humans were persistence hunters. On their ancient savannas, they had chased prey animals for days, sometimes running for 8 hours straight under a blazing sun, until their targets collapsed from exhaustion. They did not have the speed of a Felkar or the strength of a Bruthorn. They simply kept going when everything else stopped. But that was not the worst part. Vralkesh pulled up the weapons development timeline and felt a wave of nausea wash over him. The humans had split the atom and created weapons capable of destroying their entire civilization. And then, instead of destroying themselves, they had mostly stopped using those weapons. They kept them, of course. Thousands of them, just in case. The casual insanity of it made his scales itch. He opened a transmission to the Galactic Council headquarters. This could not wait for the standard monthly report. Senior Administrator Thexler answered almost immediately, her crystalline face shimmering with irritation at being disturbed during the rest cycle. This had better be worth the interruption. Vralkesh, she said coldly. Administrator, we have a Category 5 development on observation planet Earth. The humans have achieved lunar landing capability. Thexler's expression shifted from annoyance to concern. How long since they discovered fire? Vralkesh checked his notes, though he had memorized the number. Approximately 1 million of their years. But they only invented the steam engine 300 years ago, nuclear fission 70 years ago, and now this. That is not possible. The Draxian Accord states that species must achieve social unity before developing space travel. Surely the humans have formed a world government. No, Administrator. They have 195 separate nations. Many of them despise each other. They achieved spaceflight in the middle of something they call the Cold War, where 2 major powers threatened to destroy their entire planet with nuclear weapons while maintaining an uneasy peace. Thexler was silent for a long moment. Convene an emergency council session. Send all your data. And Vralkesh? Do not let anyone else monitor that planet. If what you are telling me is accurate, we may have a serious problem. The transmission ended, leaving Vralkesh alone with his disturbing research. He could not help himself. He pulled up more data files, diving deeper into human behavior patterns. What he found made him want to seal the humans behind a containment field and never let them leave their solar system. The humans had domesticated wolves. Wolves. Apex predators with jaws strong enough to crush bone. The humans had somehow convinced these dangerous carnivores to live in their homes, sleep in their beds, and love them unconditionally. They called them dogs and treated them like children. They consumed toxic plants for pleasure, calling the burning sensation spicy and seeming to enjoy the pain. They invented something called extreme sports, where they jumped out of aircraft, climbed sheer cliff faces, and rode frozen water down mountains at deadly speeds, for fun. Their literature was full of stories celebrating individuals who refused to accept defeat. They had phrases like, "Never give up," and "Come hell or high water and over my dead body." They seemed to view impossible odds as a personal challenge rather than a sensible reason to retreat. Far below on Earth, completely unaware of the alien attention, Captain Jake Morrison sat in a small bunker in the Nevada desert, staring at a screen full of data that made no sense. He was the commanding officer of Remote Listening Post 7, a facility so secret that most of the military did not know it existed. His job was to monitor unusual signals from deep space and report anything anomalous. For the past 3 months, he had been tracking something very anomalous indeed. Lisa, Come look at this, Jake called to his communications specialist. Lisa Harper rolled her chair over, her eyes scanning the frequency patterns Jake had isolated. That is definitely artificial, she said quietly. Those pulses are too regular to be natural. And Jake, look at the amplitude variations. That is a mathematical sequence. Danny Wright, their physicist, leaned over Lisa's shoulder. That looks like the Fibonacci sequence. But nobody just broadcasts the Fibonacci sequence into space unless they are trying to get someone's attention. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Or unless they are trying to mark something. Lisa, where is this signal originating? Lisa typed rapidly, running triangulation algorithms through their satellite network. Somewhere beyond the orbit of Neptune. But Jake, there is nothing out there. No planets, no asteroids large enough to support a transmission station. This is coming from deep space. Or from something in deep space, Danny said. Something that is watching us. Jake stood up and walked to the wall of monitors showing various data streams. For years, scientists had debated whether humanity was alone in the universe. The question had kept philosophers and physicists awake at night. Now Jake realized they might be about to get an answer, and he was not sure humanity was ready for it. Get me a secure line to the Pentagon, Jake said. This goes all the way up the chain. If someone is out there, we need to know who they are and what they want. What Jake did not know, could not know, was that his simple act of decoding that signal had just triggered an alert on survey ship Cathera 7. The humans had noticed they were being watched. They had found the monitoring beacon, and now there was no going back. Vralkesh stared at the alert on his screen and made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. He opened a new file and began typing his official report to the Galactic Council. The title wrote itself, Critical Threat Assessment, Species Designation Human, Planet Earth, Sol System. In the report summary, he added one line that captured everything he had learned, everything he feared. Recommendation: immediate quarantine protocols. Under no circumstances should this species be allowed to develop faster than light travel. If they escape their home system, there is no predicting what they will do or who can stop them. He paused, then added one final note in the informal language that would never appear in official records. Holy shit, don't let the humans out. The emergency council session was scheduled for the following day. Vralkesh spent the night reviewing his data, preparing his presentation and trying not to think about what would happen if the council ignored his warnings. He had studied enough human history to know one thing with absolute certainty. If there was a way out of their solar system, the humans would find it. And when they did, the galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Council chamber was designed to inspire awe and obedience. Carved from a single massive crystal that predated most civilizations, it housed representatives from 247 species, each one carefully selected over millennia, to maintain the perfect balance of power and stability that kept the galaxy peaceful, or at least quiet. Council Representative Thexler stood at the center podium, her crystalline form refracting the soft blue light into 1,000 dancing patterns. Around her, the assembled delegates waited in silence. Emergency sessions were rare. The last one had been 70 cycles ago when the Vraxian sun went supernova and required immediate evacuation protocols. Esteemed members of the council, Thexler began, her voice resonating through the chamber's acoustic perfection. We face a potential crisis unlike any in our recorded history. Senior xenobiologist Vralkesh has presented evidence of a species that violates several fundamental assumptions about sentient development. She activated the holographic display, and an image of Earth appeared, spinning slowly above the assembled delegates. To most of them it looked ordinary, a pleasant blue and green world, similar to thousands of others. Nothing threatening. This is Earth, Thexler continued, home to a species that calls themselves humans. They achieved spaceflight capability 50 years ago, lunar landing 3 years ago, and our projections suggest they will develop faster than light travel within the next 100 years. A murmur rippled through the chamber. 100 years was nothing, barely a blink in galactic terms. Vralkesh stepped forward, his scaled hands clasping a data tablet that contained months of research. Honored Council, I have studied the humans extensively. They are not like us. They evolved as persistence hunters on a death world. Death world? Interrupted Counselor Vren of the Peaceful Hive Collective. Surely that is an exaggeration. Vralkesh pulled up new data. Earth's gravity is 1.3 times galactic standard. Its atmosphere contains highly reactive oxygen. The planet experiences violent weather systems, tectonic instability, and has been struck by extinction-level events multiple times in its history. 99% of all species that ever lived on Earth are extinct. The humans survived by being more stubborn than their environment. He switched the display to show human activities. They do not have natural weapons. No claws, no venom, no armored skin. They are slow compared to most predators on their world. Yet they became the dominant species through one trait. They never stop. They chase prey until it dies of exhaustion. They solve problems by trying the same approach thousands of times until it works. They have a saying, if at first you don't succeed, try again. The council members shifted uncomfortably. This sounded less like a species and more like a natural disaster with consciousness. Vralkesh continued, pulling up more disturbing evidence. They weaponized atomic energy before achieving social unity. They created weapons capable of destroying their entire biosphere. We expected them to destroy themselves within decades. They did not. Instead, they created something they call mutually assured destruction, where everyone agreed not to use the weapons because everyone would die. This somehow worked. Counselor Miresta of the Elysian Communion, known for her philosophical nature, leaned forward. Perhaps this shows wisdom? They chose survival over destruction. Or, countered Vralkesh, it shows they are willing to hold a weapon to their own head if it means their enemies back down. That is not wisdom. That is insanity used as strategy. He pulled up more files, his voice growing more urgent. They domesticated apex predators and keep them as pets. They consume toxic plants for recreation. They invented extreme sports where they risk death for entertainment. Their literature celebrates individuals who defy impossible odds. They have something in their psychology that we do not have words for. The closest translation is spite. They will do something simply because someone told them it could not be done. The chamber fell silent as the delegates absorbed this information. Finally, Thexilor spoke. What do you recommend, Vralkesh? Immediate quarantine. We place warning beacons around their solar system. We monitor them closely, and we pray to whatever gods we believe in that they never develop faster than light travel. On Earth, Jake Morrison's life had become considerably more complicated in the past 72 hours. His small listening post now hosted a dozen additional personnel, including Colonel Steve Bennett from the Pentagon, who seemed to view everything Jake said with deep suspicion. Let me understand this correctly. Captain, Colonel Bennett said, his arms crossed as he studied the data screens. You are telling me that there is an artificial satellite beyond Neptune broadcasting mathematical sequences, and you think it is alien in origin? Not just mathematical sequences, sir, Lisa Harper interjected. She had barely slept since they made the discovery, running simulation after simulation. The patterns are too complex to be random. Someone is trying to communicate. Or warn us. Warn us about what? Danny Wright pulled up a new screen showing the decoded portions of the signal. We have only translated about 12% so far, but the repeated symbols suggest a boundary marker, like a fence. And we are on one side of it. Colonel Bennett turned to the newest member of their team, Maria Santos, a linguist who specialized in ancient languages and theoretical communication systems. She had arrived that morning looking both excited and terrified. Dr. Santos, is this translation reliable? Maria adjusted her glasses, studying the symbols they had isolated. If I am reading this correctly, and I am not entirely certain I am, this is not a greeting. It is a warning. The closest English translation would be something like, authorized personnel only, do not cross, or possibly quarantine zone. Quarantine? Jake felt his stomach drop. They think we are dangerous? Or they are protecting us from something, Maria suggested. Though she did not sound convinced, Kyle Peterson, the engineer Bennett had brought with him, was examining the technical specifications of the signal itself. Whatever is broadcasting this has technology decades beyond anything we have. Maybe centuries. The power requirements alone are staggering. And Captain Morrison, there is something else you should see. Kyle pulled up a three-dimensional map of the solar system. Dozens of red dots appeared, forming a rough sphere around Earth's orbital plane. These are all the signal sources we have identified in the past day. There are not just one. There are 47 of them, all broadcasting the same warning. Someone has surrounded our entire solar system with these beacons. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. Humanity was not alone in the universe, but apparently, someone had decided humanity needed to be contained. Colonel Bennett pulled out a secure phone. "I need to brief the Joint Chiefs immediately. Dr. Santos, keep working on that translation. Captain Morrison, I want continuous monitoring of those signals. If anything changes, I want to know instantly." As Bennett left to make his calls, Jake looked at his team. Lisa was pale. Danny kept running his hands through his hair in nervous habit. Maria was muttering in 3 different languages as she worked on the translation. And Kyle stared at the map of beacons like he was trying to solve an impossible puzzle. "We just found out we are not alone," Lisa said quietly. "So why do I feel more alone than ever?" Jake did not have an answer. He turned back to the screens, watching the patterns repeat endlessly. Someone out there had looked at humanity and decided they needed to be locked up. The question that kept Jake awake that night was simple and terrifying. What had humanity done, or what were they afraid humanity would do? That required 47 warning beacons surrounding their entire solar system. Far above, on survey ship Cathara 7, Vrelkesh watched his monitors and noted that the humans had found 32 of the quarantine beacons so far. They were using primitive radio telescopes and basic triangulation, but they were finding them. Of course they were. Humans saw a puzzle and could not help but try to solve it. He updated his report with a new observation. The humans have discovered the quarantine beacons. They are attempting translation. Recommend immediate council decision on containment protocols. Time is not on our side. In the council chamber, the debate had been going on for hours. Some delegates argued for immediate military containment. Others suggested opening diplomatic contact. A few advocated for simply destroying Earth before the humans could spread. Miresta stood once more, her voice calm but firm. "We speak of containing chaos, but is chaos not the very essence of evolution? The galaxy has been stable for 10,000 cycles, stable but stagnant. Perhaps these humans are exactly what we need. Or perhaps," countered Vren, "they are exactly what will destroy us all." The vote was called. The result was close but clear. Earth would remain quarantined. Humanity would be contained within their solar system by any means necessary. And if they tried to break out, the galaxy would respond with force. Nobody asked what would happen if the humans succeeded anyway. 6 months after humanity discovered they were in a cage, everything changed. The revelation that alien civilizations existed and considered Earth a quarantine zone had done something remarkable. It united the human race faster than any war, peace treaty, or natural disaster ever had. The United Nations transformed overnight into something more ambitious. World leaders gathered not to debate borders or resources, but to discuss how 7 billion humans could break free from a prison they only just discovered existed. The Terran Space Initiative was born from those urgent meetings, funded by every nation on Earth, staffed by the brightest minds from every culture and background. Admiral Nina Cross stood on the bridge of the Columbus, humanity's first faster-than-light vessel, and tried not to think about the fact that she was about to either make history or doom her species. She was 52 years old, a veteran of 3 wars and 2 space station commands, chosen to lead this mission because she had a reputation for staying calm when everything went wrong. She had a feeling she would need that skill very soon. "Final systems check," she called out, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Ryan Hughes, her pilot, was 28 and had been racing motorcycles since he was 15. He brought an unconventional approach to space navigation that made traditional pilots nervous and made Nina think he might be just crazy enough to pull this off. "Engines are green across the board, Admiral. The experimental drive is holding stable." "I still cannot believe we built this thing." "We had help," Nina reminded him. "The Columbus was not entirely human technology. It was based on salvaged components from a damaged alien probe that had crashed in the Arctic 3 months ago. The Galactic Council had tried to retrieve it. Humanity got there first. Sometimes being reckless and stubborn paid off. Dr. Sophie Blake, their medical officer, checked her station. "Life support optimal. Medical bay ready for anything from paper cuts to catastrophic decompression. Let us hope for paper cuts." Commander Alex Turner ran tactical. He was former Navy, experienced in submarine warfare, which apparently translated well to space combat. "Weapon systems ready." though I still say trying to fight our way through a blockade is insane. Noted, Nina said, and ignored. We are not going around the blockade, Commander, we are going through it. Ryan, what is our approach vector? Ryan pulled up a holographic display showing the outer solar system. Red markers indicated the alien blockade ships. There were 17 of them, positioned in a spherical formation that should have made escape impossible. Should have. I have been studying their patrol patterns for weeks. They move in predictable geometric formations. Perfect circles, perfect timing. They think like mathematicians. And we think like what? Sophie asked. Lunatics, Ryan said cheerfully. Which is exactly what we need. Admiral, if we punch the faster-than-light drive right here, he indicated a point that seemed to be directly at the thickest part of the blockade. And I mean right up close, we can use their own formation against them. They will need 3.7 seconds to adjust their positions. We will be gone in 2.1 seconds. Alex stared at the plan. That is not a safety margin. That is barely a margin at all. Welcome to being human, Nina said. All crew, this is the Admiral. We are about to attempt something that every alien civilization out there probably thinks is impossible. We are going to fly through their blockade, break their quarantine, and show the galaxy that humanity does not ask permission to explore the stars. Strap in. This is going to get interesting. The Columbus accelerated smoothly, its hybrid human-alien engines pushing it toward the edge of the solar system where the blockade waited. On survey ship Cathara 7, alarms began screaming. Vralkesh could not believe what he was seeing. The humans are launching a ship. A faster-than-light capable ship. That is not possible. They should not have that technology for decades at minimum. His second-in-command, a nervous Vrelian named Tix, checked the readings twice. The energy signature is unstable. That drive should not work. The harmonics are all wrong. Tell that to the humans, Vralkesh muttered, already sending emergency transmissions to the blockade fleet. All ships, we have a breakout attempt. Intercept Vector Delta 9. Do not let that ship escape. The blockade ships moved with practiced precision, adjusting their formation to create an impenetrable wall of overlapping shields and weapons arrays. Each ship was 3 times larger than the Columbus, with technology refined over millennia. Their commanders expected the human ship to veer off, to recognize the impossibility of breaching their formation. They did not understand humans very well yet. They are adjusting position, Alex reported, watching the tactical display. 3 ships converging on our vector. Admiral, they are going to block us. Ryan? Nina kept her voice calm. I see them. Hold on to something. Ryan did something that no properly trained pilot would ever do. He angled the ship not away from the converging blockade vessels, but directly, between them, threading a gap that was closing at thousands of kilometers per second. Then he engaged the faster-than-light drive early, before they cleared the formation. Something every manual said would tear the ship apart from gravitational shear. The Columbus screamed through the gap like a motorcycle sliding under a closing garage door. Warning alarms filled the bridge. The hull temperature spiked. For exactly 2.1 seconds, the ship existed in regular space surrounded by alien vessels that were far too close. Then Ryan cut the drive at the last possible instant and diverted all power to engines, executing a turn that would have killed everyone aboard if the inertial dampeners had failed even slightly. They did not fail. The Columbus shot past the blockade like a stone from a slingshot, leaving the alien ship scrambling to adjust to a maneuver they had never imagined anyone would attempt. We are clear, Alex said, his voice slightly higher than normal. We are actually clear. We just broke through a galactic blockade using physics that should not work, and piloting that definitely violates several laws of nature. Just the human way, Ryan said, his hands still on the controls, already plotting their next jump. Admiral, we are free. Nina allowed herself a smile. Send the signal. Let Earth know we made it. Helm, set course for the nearest star system with habitable worlds. Let us see what else is out here. The implications of humanity's escape rippled through the galaxy faster than the Columbus itself. By the time Vralkesh reported the breakout to the Galactic Council, 3 more human ships were already under construction. By the time the council convened an emergency session to discuss the response, humanity had made first contact with 4 new species, all of them on the fringes of council space, all of them fascinated by these strange newcomers who did not understand why everything had to follow the rules. Thexler listened to the reports with growing horror. They are sharing technology, freely, with uncertified species. Vralkesh nodded wearily. He had not slept properly in weeks. The humans encountered a Vrelian mining colony that was failing due to outdated equipment. Instead of ignoring them, the humans gave them upgraded drilling technology. Gave it to them. They did not ask for payment or political concessions. They just helped. That makes no sense, Counselor Vren said. What do they gain? Friends? Vralkesh said simply. The humans are making friends, and those friends are starting to ask questions. Questions like why the Council abandoned the Vrelian colonies. Questions like why do some species get representation and others do not. Questions like who benefits from keeping things exactly as they have always been. Miresta watched the Council with knowing eyes. We tried to contain the humans because we feared their chaos. But we forgot something important. Chaos is not always destruction. Sometimes chaos is change. And change is the one thing we have been avoiding for 10,000 cycles. Are you suggesting we simply accept this invasion of our ordered galaxy? Thexler demanded. I am suggesting that perhaps the humans are not the ones who should be contained, Miresta replied. Perhaps we are. The debate raged on, but Vralkesh barely listened. He was too busy monitoring reports of more human ships launching, more species making contact, more of the careful order he had spent his life maintaining coming apart like old fabric. The humans were spreading across the galaxy like wildfire, and he was starting to realize something terrifying. Maybe his initial report had been wrong. Maybe the real danger was not letting the humans out. Maybe the real danger had been keeping them locked up in the first place, because now that they were free, they had something to prove, and a galaxy full of rules they did not understand or respect, and there was absolutely nothing anyone could do to stop them. 2 years after breaking quarantine, humanity had established itself as the galaxy's most unpredictable player. They had colonies on 17 worlds, trade agreements with 43 species, and a reputation for being simultaneously helpful and absolutely insane. The Galactic Council headquarters had become a place of constant tension. What had been a stable bureaucracy for millennia was now dealing with daily challenges from species who suddenly wanted to know why things worked the way they did. The humans had not just broken the quarantine. They had broken something far more fundamental, the assumption that the current order was the only order possible. Ambassador Kelly Foster walked through the massive corridors of the council complex, her security chief Greg Palmer close behind. Kelly was 41, a former professor of international relations who specialized in conflict resolution. She had been chosen to represent Earth precisely because she asked difficult questions in ways that made people think, instead of getting angry. Usually. Remember the briefing? Greg muttered. The council is looking for any excuse to impose sanctions. We need to be diplomatic. I am always diplomatic, Kelly said. You asked the Vraxian ambassador why his species claimed 3 star systems they had not visited in 2,000 years. That was a perfectly reasonable question. He filed a formal complaint. Then he should have a better answer. They entered the main council chamber, where Thexler waited with her crystalline face arranged in what might have been disapproval. It was hard to tell with her species. Ambassador Foster, you requested this session to address concerns about human expansion protocols. Kelly took her place at the speaker's podium. Around her, representatives from hundreds of species watched with varying degrees of interest and hostility. Thank you, Administrator. I am here because Earth has received multiple violations notices regarding our colony establishment procedures. I would like to understand what rules we are supposedly breaking. Thexler activated a holographic display showing a map of human colony worlds. You have established settlements on worlds classified as frontier zones without proper authorization. You have made trade agreements with unaffiliated species. You have shared advanced technology without council approval. These actions violate established protocols. I see, Kelly said. And who established these protocols? The council, of course. These rules have maintained galactic stability for 10,000 cycles. And who benefits from these rules? The chamber went very quiet. That was not a question people usually asked out loud. Kelly continued, her voice calm but firm. I have reviewed the protocols. Frontier zones cannot be colonized without council permission, which requires a petition that takes an average of 200 years to process. Unaffiliated species are those who do not have council representation, which requires sponsorship from an existing member, which is rarely granted. Technology sharing requires impact assessments that take decades. These are not rules that maintain stability. They are rules that maintain the current power structure. You speak of matters you do not understand, Councillor Vren said coldly. The galaxy is complex. These rules exist for good reasons. Then explain the reasons, Kelly said. I am genuinely asking. Help me understand why the Vrelian colonies were abandoned when their mining operations became unprofitable. Help me understand why the Telkari species has been waiting 300 years for council membership. Help me understand why sharing medical technology with a plague-stricken world requires 2 years of paperwork, while millions die. Victor Chen, Kelly's cultural attaché, stepped forward with a data tablet. We have compiled statistics. Of the 47 species that have applied for council membership in the past 1,000 years, only 3 were accepted. All 3 were from star systems rich in rare minerals that council members wanted access to. The other 44 applications came from species in resource-poor regions. Curious pattern. Thexeler's crystalline form flickered with what might have been anger. You accuse the council of corruption? I accuse the council of being exactly what you claim to oppose, Kelly said. Stagnant, unchanging, more interested in maintaining the status quo than actually governing. And I think a lot of species are starting to notice. She was right. In the 2 years since humanity's emergence, something had shifted in galactic politics. Species that had accepted their place in the hierarchy for centuries were suddenly asking why things had to be that way. The question spread like a virus, and the humans were the primary vectors. On the frontier world of Nova Terra, Colony Director Chris Matthews was dealing with a different kind of problem. His surveyor, Janet Lee, had found something during a routine geological scan, something that the Galactic Council had apparently wanted to stay hidden. Chris, you need to see this, Janet called from her analysis station. They were in a prefabricated research dome on the edge of the colony's main settlement. Outside, construction robots worked on expanding the habitation zone. Chris looked at the data Janet was showing him and felt his breath catch. Is this what I think it is? Ruins, Janet confirmed. Not from any species we know. These predate the Galactic Council by at least 20,000 years. And Chris, look at the architectural patterns. She pulled up comparison images. The ruins on Nova Terra matched design elements found on 17 other worlds throughout the galaxy. Worlds that were supposedly settled by different species at different times. This is the same civilization, Chris said slowly. One species spread across dozens of star systems. What happened to them? Janet pulled up more data, her hands shaking slightly. I have been running chemical analysis on the materials. There are traces of advanced technology, far beyond what we or the Council currently have, and there are signs of social collapse. Not war, not plague, just gradual decay, like they forgot how to innovate, how to adapt until their entire civilization just stopped. Stagnation, Chris said. They died of stagnation, and the Council is following the exact same pattern. No major technological advances in 8,000 years. No social reforms. No new ideas. Just maintaining the same order, the same hierarchy, the same rules. Chris looked at the ruins through the dome's transparent wall. An entire civilization, more advanced than anything currently in the galaxy, had died because they stopped changing. And the Galactic Council was walking the same path, keeping everything frozen in place, terrified that any change might disrupt their careful balance. We need to tell people about this, Chris said. Earth, the Council, everyone. This is not just ancient history. This is a warning. Back on the Council station, Kelly was wrapping up her presentation. She had expected anger, dismissal, perhaps threats. What she had not expected was the response she got from nearly a quarter of the assembled delegates. Ambassador Foster raises valid concerns, said the Telkari representative. A species that had been denied council membership for 3 centuries. My people have long wondered why our applications are ignored while others are fast-tracked. Perhaps it is time for answers. The Vrelian colonies were abandoned to die, added another delegate. The humans helped us. The council did not. This makes us question who actually serves the people of this galaxy. Thexler tried to restore order, but the chamber had erupted into debate. Species that had been silent for generations were suddenly speaking up, demanding explanations, questioning traditions that had gone unchallenged for millennia. Greg Palmer leaned close to Kelly. "You just started a political revolution. The Council is going to hate us for this." "Good," Kelly said, "because we just found out that the last civilization that stopped questioning everything, that stopped changing and adapting, died out completely. And I would rather the galaxy hate us for asking questions than die with us, because everyone was too polite to demand better." The council session devolved into chaos. Thexler eventually suspended the proceedings, but the damage was done. The questions had been asked. The doubts had been planted. And across the galaxy, species were starting to wonder if the old order was really worth preserving. Vralkesh watched the aftermath from his observation post and updated his report one more time. "The humans have not conquered us with weapons or technology. They have conquered us with questions. They challenge assumptions we did not even know we were making. They refuse to accept that things have always been done this way as a valid reason to continue doing them that way." Initial threat assessment severely understated the danger. The humans are not just disrupting our order, they are offering an alternative. And species are listening. He paused, then added a final note. "If we try to force them back into compliance, we may fracture the entire council. If we do nothing, the changes they inspire may dissolve everything we have built. There is no winning the situation. The humans have already won simply by existing." Far away on Nova Terra, Chris Matthews sent his report about the ancient ruins to Earth and to every species he could reach. The message was clear. The galaxy had seen this before. A powerful civilization, convinced its way was the only way, had stopped adapting and died. The Galactic Council was making the same mistake. The question was whether anyone would learn from history, or whether they would need the humans to teach them the hard way. The galaxy had reached a breaking point. The Galactic Council, facing the greatest internal crisis in its 10,000-year history, had fractured into two camps. The conservative faction, led by the militant Craxi Dominion, insisted that humanity represented an existential threat that required immediate military action. The progressive faction, inspired by what the humans called asking difficult questions, argued for reform and integration. The conservatives won the vote by a narrow margin. War was coming. Admiral Nina Cross stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned Earth defense ship Valor, looking at tactical displays that made her stomach tight. The Craxi had assembled the largest military fleet in recorded history. 500 capital ships, each one capable of destroying a small planet. They were moving toward Earth with one clear objective: end the human problem permanently. Earth could field 62 combat vessels, most of them converted civilian ships with weapons hastily bolted on. The mathematics were brutal. Humanity was going to lose this fight. How long until they reach Earth? Nina asked. Commander Alex Turner, now her second-in-command, checked the projections. 36 hours at their current speed. They are not even trying to hide their approach. They want us to see them coming. Psychological warfare, Nina said. They want us to surrender before they even arrive. Is that an option? Ryan Hughes asked from the pilot station. He was still their best pilot, now training others in his particular brand of controlled insanity. No, Nina said simply. Humanity does not surrender. We find another way. Dr. Sophie Blake, who had stayed with Nina through 2 years of increasingly dangerous missions, looked up from her medical station. I have been monitoring communications across the galaxy. A lot of species are watching this. If the Craxi crush us, it sends a message to everyone else who is thinking about questioning the Council. But if we somehow win or even just survive, that sends a very different message. Nina nodded. She understood the stakes. This was not just about Earth. This was about whether the galaxy would continue to be controlled by fear and tradition, or whether change was actually possible. Send a message to Captain Jake Morrison, Nina ordered. Tell him to activate the Coalition Protocol. Jake Morrison had come a long way from running a small listening post in Nevada. He now commanded the exploration vessel Endeavour, and over the past 2 years he had made friends with dozens of species that the Galactic Council had ignored or abandoned. Species that remembered what it felt like to be told they did not matter. His crew had grown. Lisa Harper still handled communications. Danny Wright managed science operations, and Maria Santos had become their primary diplomat. They had added Tracy Wells, a pilot who flew with the same reckless precision as Ryan Hughes, and Sam Rodriguez, an engineer who could fix anything with whatever materials were available. Coalition protocol confirmed, Lisa said, reading Nina's message. She wants us to call in every favor we have. Every species we have helped, every colony we have supported, everyone who thinks the Council might not have all the answers. Do it, Jake said. Send the message to everyone. Tell them Earth needs help. Tell them this is about more than just us. If the Craxi can destroy humanity for asking questions, what stops them from doing the same to anyone else? The responses came faster than Jake had dared to hope. The Vrelian mining colonies, remembering how humans had given them technology when the Council had abandoned them, sent every ship they had. The Telkari, tired of being denied Council membership for 300 years, mobilized their defense fleet. Dozens of smaller species, ones that had been told they were too insignificant to matter, answered the call. Within 24 hours, Earth's defense fleet had grown from 62 ships to 317, still outnumbered by the Craxi, but no longer facing impossible odds. They had something else too. They had people fighting not because they were ordered to, but because they believed in something. On the Council station, Thexler watched the coalition forming with growing alarm. This is unprecedented. These species are defying Council authority to support the humans. We are losing control. Councillor Miresta, who had been quiet during most of the debates, finally spoke. Perhaps we never had as much control as we thought. Perhaps we had obedience built on fear and stagnation. The humans showed everyone that there were other options. We should have listened to them instead of trying to destroy them. It is too late for regrets, Friend said. The Craxi fleet will destroy the human homeworld and scatter their allies. Order will be restored. Or, Miresta said quietly, the humans will surprise us again. They seem to be good at that. The battle began in the space around Earth's moon. The Craxi fleet arrived in perfect formation, their massive ships arranged in geometric patterns that had won wars for thousands of years. General Throck, commanding from the flagship Eternal Order, expected the humans to meet them head-on in some desperate last stand. Instead, the human fleet scattered in what appeared to be complete chaos. They are running, Throck said with satisfaction. They break before we even fire. This will be over quickly. But his tactical officer looked uncertain. General, their movement patterns make no sense. They are not retreating. They are not attacking. They are just moving randomly. Then they are panicking. All ships advance. Destroy the human vessels first, then proceed to planetary bombardment. The Craxi ships moved forward, and that was when everything went wrong. The human ships were not moving randomly. They were moving unpredictably. There was a difference. They did not follow standard tactical doctrine, because they had learned from motorcycle racing and submarine warfare and street fighting. They moved like water, filling every gap, striking from unexpected angles, and they were not alone. The coalition ships had learned from the humans. Vrelian mining vessels designed to break apart asteroids proved terrifyingly effective at breaking apart much larger targets. Telkari fighters, small and fast, swarmed like insects around the Craxi capital ships. Species that had been told they were too weak to matter discovered they were strong enough when they stopped following rules designed to keep them weak. Ryan Hughes piloted his ship between two Craxi destroyers, launched a full spread of missiles at point-blank range, and then did something no sane pilot would attempt. He cut his engines completely, letting momentum carry him forward while he rotated the ship and fired his thrusters to shoot backward through the debris of his own attack. That was the stupidest thing I have ever seen, Tracy Wells said over the communication channel, right before she did something even more reckless, using a damaged Craxi cruiser as a gravity slingshot to build up impossible speed. General Throck watched his perfect formation falling apart against an enemy that refused to fight properly. They do not follow any recognized tactical patterns. How do we counter enemies who have no strategy? They do have a strategy, his tactical officer said. It is just not our strategy. They adapt to us. We cannot adapt to them. The battle raged for 6 hours. When it finally ended, the Craxi fleet was not destroyed, but it was broken. 70% of their ships were damaged or disabled. The coalition had taken heavy losses too, but they had done the impossible. they had held, General Throck found himself facing Admiral Nina Cross on an open communication channel. His ship was crippled, his fleet scattered. He was prepared to die with honor, fighting to the last. Instead, Nina Cross asked him a question. "What are you fighting for, really?" Throck was silent for a long moment. "I follow orders. I maintain the Council's authority." "Why?" Such a simple question. Such a devastating question. Throck had been following orders his entire life. He had fought wars, conquered worlds, enforced council edicts. And suddenly, faced with this human who had beaten him through sheer refusal to accept that things had to be done a certain way, he could not remember why any of it mattered. "The Council will send more fleets," Throck said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Probably," Nina agreed. "Or we could try something different. Come to Earth, talk to us, see what we are actually trying to do. Make your own decision instead of following orders that might be wrong." It was the most radical thing anyone had said to Throck in his 70-year military career. The idea that he could make his own decisions, that orders could be questioned, that there might be better ways to do things. The peace talks took 3 months. Ambassador Kelly Foster led the negotiations, with support from representatives of every species in the coalition. The old Galactic Council was dissolved. In its place, they created the Galactic Union, a true democracy where every species got a vote, where innovation was celebrated instead of suppressed, where asking why was considered a virtue instead of a threat. It was messy. It was complicated. It was nothing like the orderly hierarchy that had governed the galaxy for 10,000 years, and it was exactly what the galaxy needed. Vralkesh, now retired from active service, added one final note to his famous report on humanity. Initial assessment: do not let the humans out. Revised assessment: too late. But perhaps that is not a bad thing. The humans did not conquer us. They did not destroy us. They simply asked us why we did things the way we did. And when we could not give good answers, they showed us there were other options.